2, 1. Hello,
Hi,
everyone,
guys,
and welcome to the Woman's Cave. Look, it's back.
The Women's Cave. Yes, it is
The
back.
logo.
But let's just talk about the microwaving of the egg. Okay, I'm Jade, by the way.
Oh, you remember to introduce us. I'm Wilnona. Yes, you did just say.
Who microwaves an egg? Where do they do that? Hold on, wait. I have to put some slang in there. Where they do that at?
Honestly?
Where they do that at?
I wanted a hard-boiled egg.
Really?
For lunch. And that was the quickest way to do it.
You know what? I have no time until it explodes in the microwave.
And I'm pretty sure an intern or someone will clean up that stuff.
No, they won't. No, they won't. I'm going to make you clean it up. Because, really? Who does that? What they do
anyway, not important. We have books.
We do have books.
Wait,
and you know what it doesn't include? Microwaving an egg.
Before we do books. We got invited to do VIP at the book festival tomorrow. We're going to be at VIP, so now do books.
Okay, well, And I Thought ladies and part of the 2 of the 15 now, and we did the And I Thought series. And I Thought divorce was bad with other life lessons. And I thought being grown up was easy. And I thought I could juggle it all.
Good. Oh, purple.
Excuse me. And I thought
laughing at me on the slide.
And I thought I did my journey alone. And I thought I had it all figured out at episode 1. And no, you cannot do your thing.
No, I can't do it because people
and Just Writing Life, you can check out what we're doing. Just Writing Life on Amazon.com and
Channel 18
in Sacramento, California.
Yes, we actually did get that television.
I'm not done. I'm not finished. The narcissism. You microwaved an egg. You can't talk today. You might
go for it. We gotta hurry up because Pheoff actually has stuff to say.
I know. Wait. Now the lady. Okay, so you go to andwethought.com. All of these books are available on andwethought.com, barnesandnoble.com, and Amazon.com. But if you go to andwethought.com, you guys go to the bottom, go to the ladies page, go to the bottom and see the charities that we probably support. And yes, Marilyn Hawes did win. So thank you guys out there for voting for her.
Congrats, Marilyn. And by the way, the pictures were awesome.
Yay.
Anyway, enough about us. Let's hear from our wonderful, wonderful guest.
Oh, see, I'm letting you do this today.
Yes. Oh, wait, I'm going to add one thing. Like, he's like on the level, like, I love Stephanie and then I love Pheoff.
I know. We love everyone, though.
We love everyone, but, we love those 2 especially. Anyway, Mr. Sutton, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello. I'm Pheoff Sutton.
And you do?
What else do you need? Oh, I'm a writer. I've been writing for 31 years now. I've been making a living as a writer. I've been.
We learned to write early, y'all.
Did television. I worked on Cheers for 8 years. I worked on Boston Legal. I've written movies. I wrote The Fan with Robert De Niro and Mrs. Winterbourne with Sharon McClane and Ricky Lake. And I have, for the last few years, written a number of books. I'm writing a series of movies for Hallmark. The first one premieres next month, called Darrow and Darrow with Kimberly Williams Paisley and Wendy Malick and Tom Cavanaugh. It turned out really well. And then I'm writing another one of that and another one. And I was just up till 1:30 in the morning doing a rewrite on one of those. So I'm a little bit foggy, but I'm here.
1 in the morning.
Okay, for someone who's up to 1 in the morning, you look very awake.
I know.
Actually, it was 1:30 actually. But anyway, yes.
Can I
it's all an illusion.
Oh, firstly.
Firstly.
I keep saying firstly recently.
Firstly is okay. Firstly is okay.
Is it really a word?
Sure, why not?
Anyway, it's one of those verbal things. First, I want to say, I admire anyone who can write any sort of script whatsoever, and the fact that you can make a living at it for 30 years.
It's
hard. No reason to want to be you.
It's difficult. It's difficult to get the work. I'm fortunate in that I really enjoy writing. So once I'm into it, I have a really good time.
Oh, great. So how do you get started? This is not any of the questions I actually had planned. I'm so sorry. I was going to ask you about the Hallmark, and I thought you already had your movie out. So I was going to ask you about, like, what did you wear? Because, you know, I'm a chick like that. So, but now that you're talking about writing, I'm just like, well, how do you start with a script? Because that's always my hardest point, and I'm no real script writer.
Well, oh boy, you know, every time you start a script, I mean, I don't care how long you've been doing it, you think, I don't have any idea how to do this. You know, you know, you have to make up the story, you have to plot the story, you have to, all that. That is really, really hard. And every time you look at that blank screen, you just think, there's just no way. I mean, I don't know anything. I don't know how to do it. It's all been an illusion, and it's all going to come crashing down. But then, you know, a little slowly but surely, if you have time, slowly but surely, things connect together and start making a story. If you have to do it quickly because you have a job and a deadline, it's harder. It's a lot harder. You really have to sweat. Then once I've got that, once I've got the story and it's been improved and the outline is written and all that sort of thing, when I actually am writing the thing, that's fun. I have a really good time with dialogue and with characters and with fleshing things out. As long as I know what I'm writing, I like writing. It's the initial period of trying to figure it out that's so hard.
I have like 17 questions before I even start. No, I can't ask 17, so I can only ask 5. Jay, do you have any?
No, because I know you have some questions. It's in your eyes. I see them. They're still light.
So I'm gonna ask the annoying one first. I do have one semi like Hollywood social question. It's probably not even a Hollywood social question, but I'm gonna ask anyway.
Not a Hollywood social.
It is not a Hollywood social question. We had Miss Dial on. She was like a producer for Haven, and she said that the whole diversity and moral thing kind of always doesn't land on the producers. It normally lands on the writers in the writers' room. Is this true?
Well,
there's no writer to answer that. There was just producers in the room, so I've been dying to ask.
Well, I'm sorry. What do you mean exactly?
Like diversity to bring. We were talking about
bringing other cultures into the script and
into the script.
That's only like lands on the writers' room, not the.
I mean, I generally, you know, I generally try to be as diverse as possible, but
believe me, you can skip this question.
It's also up to the producers. I mean, in other words, I like the last script I wrote. I read, you know, the police chief was American Indian, you know, or rather Canadian Indian, I guess, and they had me change him. I don't know why, you know. I mean, so lots of times I try to do more, but it doesn't always get through.
Oh, okay.
But in general, when I come up with a character, I usually try to think, you know, either colorblind or you know, try to make him something interesting, try to make her something, try to make it a woman when it's ordinarily a man, try to, you know, that sort of thing, you know, try to shake things up so it's not always the same.
I promise I'll never ask you one of those kind of questions again. It was just on my mind. We did it in August, and I was like, that doesn't sound right to me. And there is no writer here to ask.
Well, if the question is it usually up to the writers or the producers?
Yeah.
It's usually up to the producers. The writers can write all they want. It's the producers who do the actual hiring. And, you know, there are plenty of scripts, novels that have been, you know, whitewashed, as it were. You know, once they get to casting, they think, well, do we really want an Asian guy in the lead, or do we want Channing Tatum? And they think, well, we want Channing Tatum, you know. So I think it's more up to the producers.
All right. Well, we have both sides. I really wish you were there too, so we could have fought. That would have been awesome. But since you weren't, that's okay. Thank you for answering and taking that time. Now, to ask a whole lighter question, what is it like to see your words go from the page to like watching them on the screen? And did you get to show up at the premieres?
You know, I don't know whether they have a premiere for the Hallmark movies. I guess they do. I don't know. I'll find out. I mean, they show them on TV, and I watch them on TV. You know, when I've done movies, yeah, I've gone to the premieres in a school. You know, it very much depends. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes I look at the work and the actors are wonderful and and it's all the way I wrote it, and the way I wrote it turns out well. I think Darrow and Darrow is really, really good. Mostly that's the way it is. It sometimes is, you know, they've changed it, that unrecognizable to me. You know, they cast the wrong people. They did all, you know, and all that, and then it's kind of painful. Then it's kind of painful. But that doesn't happen too often.
How do you get through that? Because I'm sorry, when my work goes to my editor and she changes stuff, I'm so mad at her. I don't want to talk to her. How do you show up at a movie and be like, not good?
It's really painful, especially if it's actually a movie. You know, you've been apart from it for so long, because they generally don't have you in on the filming and the editing and all that. So when you go, so yeah, no, it's painful to sit there and think, you know, my name's on this, but nothing that I wrote is in it. But, there's one scene. Oh, that's one scene that's kind of familiar. And there's one line I wrote. That's great. You know, like that.
It's kind of like you're a tourist in your own film.
Huh?
You're a tourist in your own film.
Yeah. And it's more that way in movies than it is in TV. In TV, the writer is more important. The writer generally, you know, runs the show, or at least if you're the showrunner, you're usually the head writer. You run the show, or even the Hallmark movies. You know, they're very inclusive to the writer and make you feel very much a part of it. So yeah, but there are all kinds of steps along the way that are very painful. You know, getting notes,
the blank page, and then
getting notes is you know, getting notes from the producers and all that is horribly painful, because you always think they're the stupidest things that you've ever seen, and you have to somehow, you know, you can't, and you learn early on that you can't say, no, I won't do this. You know, you have to do it a little bit, or try to make it work so that you've changed it, but not ruin it. And and lots of times you get very upset when you know, it's not really that bad. Although lots of times it is that
bad. Okay, so that kind of sounds like Winona when she gets the book back and it has all this red in it. She's always angry about that. I must say that one of the reasons I like to read books is that there's nowhere near as much interference like that editorially in books than there is in any scripts. So I find that, you know, maybe it's because I'm used to TV, but the notes I get on books seem like nothing, you know, easy to do, you know, even when I wrote with.
Two more questions.
Yeah.
Oh, Jay, I'm sorry, Jay.
And then, yes, it's the most cliche question, but how did you start writing? How did you get into writing? I know it's one of those most cliche questions.
How did I start writing? Well, I started writing in high school. I started writing short stories, actually, you know, kind of mystery horror type stories that I sent away to Alfred Hitchcock Presents magazine and Ellery Queen magazine and Playboy and all that. And then I would get rejection slips, and I have a whole bulletin board full of rejections. Never got one accepted. Then when I went to college, I was in theater. I was an actor. And so I started writing plays, and I got a couple of plays done in my college, and I was in them. And, you know, there's really nobody to blame when it doesn't work. You know, you can't say, yeah, the actor screwed it up, or who wrote this shit? You know, you can't say that. Then from that, I you know, moved to LA and tried to get started. And I, you know, wrote a lot of screenplays, a lot of, you know, spec scripts. I did a lot of stuff, and finally, you know, after 3 or 4 years, I got one of my scripts went to Cheers, and I got to do a freelance Cheers, and that was my first job.
Okay, that's just not even fair. I know. It's like you and this author, Camilla Monk. She was like, oh, I had this kind of hard time where I like turned in scripts and turned in novels and they got turned down. And then Amazon picked it up. And I'm like, well, how long did that take? 6 months? And you're like, I turned in this and this and this. And then Cheers picked. Honestly, that was your first job. Come on.
Well, I did, I had three or four pretty lean years. I mean, there was one point when I had like $36 in my checking account. I was married. My wife was pregnant. We were really, that far from moving back home and living with my parents, which for my generation would have been a horrible defeat, even though now it's
Accept it.
It's a rite of passage. And then I got the job, a TV job, and I would have been happy to get any TV job, but I got Cheers, and that was great. It was a freelance, and then I did freelance for a few other shows that year, and then the next year I was hired on staff at Cheers. So that was, and in there I was there for 8 years, and I was working with the best writers in the business and learning how to do it, and working with a great cast, and it was a wonderful experience. I ran the show my last 4 years, and with Bill and Sherry Ike and Steinkellner, and it was a dream. It was like my graduate school, I guess.
Oh, how many writers would like to have that as graduate school?
Well, actually, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Wait, do I?
No, I never want to be a staff writer in Hollywood.
And
that's a lot of pressure.
People didn't tend to leave that show. A lot of shows, they work on a couple of years and you leave to another job to get a better job.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a better job, so people tended to stay on that show.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, we are seriously over time, and I really don't care.
So you have like one more question, and then.
Well, I have 2 books coming out. I have 2 books coming out.
I was just about to ask you.
I have one. This book is coming out in February, and it's a standalone novel, not really a mystery, sort of a supernatural, but kind of a novel called From Away. And then the other one I have coming out in November is another one of my Crush series that I don't have a copy of. Sorry. Called Colorado Boulevard. That is a mystery.
It's okay. We're gonna totally pre-order it. So you guys pre-order that out there.
Okay.
Also, I just wanted to say, for the readers out there, because I know you guys actually read stuff that which was weird finding that out. They were like, no, this author's like, yeah, I got a bump in sales after your show. I was like, you did a what? Okay. So anyway.
That's good.
Readers out there that listen, go figure.
Well, I have other books too. His
other books are very action-packed. I'm a huge Camilla Monk fan, which is action-packed, and therefore I am now a fan of Sutton's books because it's action-packed.
Yes. Well, the new one, Colorado Boulevard, is action-packed too. It starts with the murder at the Rose Parade. So.
Exactly.
Okay. You're like, what?
Well, we haven't switched Audibles and Kindles yet, and so we haven't both read your book. I read your book, and she read Camilla's, and then we switched out. And so
I'm actually doing the audiobook for my first novel. I'm reading it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so
you're an
actor. That's called For 50 Minutes to Live, and I guess it'll come out in October or November. I just finished it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys get that on Audible. I'm gonna get it on Audible because I'm life like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wait, before you go, Hallmark. When does your movie come out? The first one?
It's on October 22nd, I believe.
Okay. That was the reason we had you back. So
let's say that. It was supposed to be on in September, but they pushed it. I don't know. They do that. But there are already commercials for it on. It looks good.
Well, that's fantastic. Everyone's getting paid, and we like that. That is something I like. I like to get paid. But thank you so much, Mr. Sutton, for coming back on and taking this time. I know that you had to get up early. Yeah.
I know.
Because you went to bed late.
Early.
Yeah, or whatever.
I get up before 9. All right, bye.
Can we find you on the internet?
PheoffSutton.com, PheoffSutton.com, and also I'm all over Facebook, and I guess I'm on Twitter and Instagram too, but I don't really do much on them.
Okay. Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us, and we are your ladies, Jade, Winona, And you can check out our Thought series on andwethought.com, and anything that we're doing should be on there too. You guys just remember that wisdom is all around you if
you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona
and Jade.
Bye.
Bye. We're getting professional.
I know, it sucks.